He would cook. Let me be clear.
And that's going to take the leadership that we've seen out of Vice President Harris, being able to hold this coalition together. And again, when Iran launched their missiles this week, she's in the Situation Room. That's different. The people who are in the Situation Room with Donald Trump, like John Kelly as chief of staff, said he shouldn't be there. He's a damaged human being. His own defense secretary said he does not understand the situation, is incapable of dealing with it. So it's about character.
Let's focus on what your position is and the vice president's position as well. I want to talk about abortion too, because this came up at the debate. It's been a winning argument for Democrats on many ballots.
What?
But I want to clear.
Wait, what? Yo, how is this possible? Dude, they really got everything out there, dude. That's the real bipartisan consensus right there. Not the bipartisan consensus, sorry. That's the real centrist. God damn, that's incredible. Okay, I kind of want this now. What the Oh my God. What an incredible flag, dude. Oh my God. Oh my God. I love that. Imagine going to a protest on either side waving that thing. Yeah. Wow. I just want everyone to have a good time flag. I want to know the mindset of the guy who writes a review. Dude, 6 sold, 13 sold. Like, they've sold these flags. There are 19 people out there that have acquired these flags. That's incredible. That is fantastic. This is healing the world, okay? Every opinion is valid. I can't... Oh my God. What an incredible invention.
Clarify what the law is there in Minnesota. Abortion Finder, a website that helps women find access, says abortion is legal throughout pregnancy in Minnesota. There is no ban or limit on abortion in Minnesota based on how far along in a pregnancy you are. You signed the bill that makes it legal through all 9 months. Is that a position you think Democrats should advocate for nationally?
Ooh, this is a good one. Let's see how he... This is one he does care about. Let's see how he responds to this.
The vice president and I have been clear. The restoration of Roe versus Wade is what we're asking for.
But that law goes far beyond Roe v. Wade.
To make her own choice. The law is very clear. It does not change that. That was been debunked on every occasion.
But look, let's agree. What you signed is there's not a single limit through 9 months of pregnancy. Roe had a trimester framework that did have limits through the pregnancy. The Minnesota law does not have that.
This puts the decision with the woman and her health care providers. The situation we have is when you don't have the ability of health care providers to provide that, that's where you end up with a situation like Amanda.
This line of questioning is obviously super commonplace on Fox News and in most like right-wing places, even like liberal outlets that want to present themselves as like nonpartisan or whatever. But the answer is very simple. It's like, yeah, dude, we're not making a restriction on a medical procedure just because some crazy people imagined a false reality where someone is carrying a pregnancy almost to term just to get a fun abortion. Like, that's not real. That's not, you just made that problem up. Okay. Third trimester abortions are infinitely more traumatic because almost every single instance is a pregnancy that the carrier wanted to take the term. Like, they have to do it because of a medical necessity, because it's done out of a medical necessity. Like, you have to get counseling beforehand in order to actually make this decision. You're talking about people who literally have bought like baby clothes and who came up with a name for their child, and now, due to medical complications, have to get this pregnancy terminated. Why would you want to complicate that further, especially when these procedures are not the same as like the 90% of abortions that happen in the first trimester, oftentimes with a simple pill that you take. But beyond that, you're making this already traumatic experience worse for people because now they might not even be able to get it because the doctors are afraid that they might be legally prosecuted, like criminally prosecuted.
Zworsky in Texas, where they are afraid to do what's necessary. This doesn't change anything. It puts the decision back on to the woman, to the physicians, and we know that this is simply something to be brought up to be very clear. Donald Trump's asking for a nationwide abortion ban.
Wait, he
and
has
again,
said that
we don't see this as a winning campaign.
He has said repeatedly that he will not sign a national abortion ban.
Dude, yeah, no, he won't. He's, hey, I'm going to claim that you want to kill children after they like are outside of the womb. Also, Donald Trump is very honest, and he's not going to sign an abortion ban, national abortion ban.
And are you calling that just, it's a flat out lie?
Yes, of course. And Senator Vance has in the past said so too. Now, look, they may see this as an election issue. We see it as a right of women to make their own bodily decisions. And that's what the states like my state have the ability to put that in. States like Georgia.
Like, look at the energy. Look at the energy when he's defending like a woman's right to choose versus the energy when he's defending Israel's right to choose nuclear holocaust. Yeah, he doesn't have it. He doesn't have the juice. He doesn't have the sauce. 100%. This is why I'm saying, like, unironically, Josh Shapiro would be a better pick if you were going to go along with this attitude. It's so stupid. He probably wouldn't even be that good at, like, you know, communicating within the permission structure of being able to say that, like, Palestinians are human, but at least it would be more genuine, right? It makes no sense. I don't understand it. That's why he got owned on the VP debate too. It was such a sad state of affairs. Came out of the gates swinging, being like, listen, Israel has a right to first strike Iranian nuclear facilities, you know?
Force women to cross the border, and then we have a death of Amber Thurman. So let's be very clear. Trying to cut hairs on an issue on this is not where the American public's at. They want the restoration of Roe versus Wade. Vice President Harris said she would sign it. That's what we'll do when we're elected.
But to be clear, the Minnesota law is far beyond Roe v. Wade. And about the Amber Thurman case in Georgia, her family has, and it's tragic, she is a young mother who left behind a young son. But what her family has said is it was a complication from an abortion pill that she received, and she didn't get proper care when she went to a Georgia hospital, which had multiple opportunities to intervene there. Her own attorney, the family's attorney.
They're saying, skill issue. Like, it's not our fault. It's not the Republican Party's fault. Skill issue. About a person who died, by the way. That's crazy.
Attorney says it wasn't the Georgia law. It was the hospitals. What he claims is malpractice, not treating her when she clearly showed up in distress and still had the byproducts of her pregnancy because of that rare complication from the abortion pill. So just to be clear on the Georgia law and how her family and her attorney sees it.
I think they also indicated that had she not go to North Carolina after the debate the other night, that she would have been in a better position. So look, these are the situations you're going.
Wait, I'm confused. It's not. Wait, what's the time? Oh, this is from yesterday. Guys, October 6th was a very different day, to be fair, than October 7th, which happens to be the day where Georgia Supreme Court reinstated its abortion ban. Very different time frame. You have to understand. Okay. So even that being in legal limbo in the state of Georgia, that's not the fault of the Republican Party. It's not in legal limbo now. Georgia Supreme Court reinstated the abortion ban, so now it's perfectly set in stone. As someone with an avid pro-lifer family member, they don't believe in people having fun abortions so much as they tend to be anti-medicalists who believe that abortion doctors are eugenicists with a profit motive, convincing women to get abortions for financial and ideological gain. That's it. I'm just addressing the talking points that are commonly given in the media. But that is, I don't know what the to say to that. That's like even more insane. Yeah, I know. There's a lot of people in America that are anti-medicalist.
When you take this decision and put it at the hands of politicians like Donald Trump, rather than women and their doctors, we trust women, we trust doctors, and we know the outcomes of that are better.
Okay, let's clarify more changes that you signed in Minnesota.
Controversial opinion, I know, but I don't think we should be held captive by like 30% of the electorate that is simply hallucinating positions at this point. Just do normal legislation and move on, and then jiggle some keys in front of them because they're going to shift their attention to that because they're stupid. Okay. The quicker you recognize that, like, beyond the material conditions that create a perfect opportunity for right-wing radicalization, there are a lot of people who are just objectively stupid or completely oblivious to the reality. If you talk to a lot of Trump supporters, you start recognizing that. Democrats do this too, for sure. Right. And some might even say they're more annoying than the Republicans because, like, the Republican, you're like, oh, sweetie. Like, by the end of that conversation, you're like, oh, you just don't know anything. Whereas the Democrat is like so self-assured because they've read a New York Times article on the matter, right? And have that like arrogance and entitlement and elitist sentiment. Having said that, however, like I said, talk to Republicans, you will understand that like a ginormous chunk of their worldview simply stems from just not knowing what's going on. That's it. Literally, they just don't know. They are living in their own bubble. Like they're just experiencing collective psychosis at any given day, at any given moment. It is crazy. Okay. We see them in here. We see them in here all the time when a lot of these dudes come into the chat and they do it from a liberal framework sometimes, or from a Republican framework as well, where they'll just be like that one guy who was like, oh, well, I used to be a liberal, but, they're mutilating children. It's like, what do you do? What do you do with that? Yeah,